Hello, everyone. My name is Trip Graham, and you're watching Spurs Latest. So happy to have you here. This is the first episode of the series, and get in while the stock is low. We are going to be building this channel, building so much content for you guys. We're going to be talking Spurs basketball. We're going to be talking what's going on around the league. We're going to be talking drama. We're going to be talking what's happening at the deadlines. We're going to be talking free agency. We're going to see the look ahead for the Spurs, where we are in this season and where we go from here. It's a very exciting second half of the season coming up. Not just for the Spurs, but for the NBA. It has been a madhouse out there in terms of NBA drama. LeBron, Anthony Davis, Trey Young. Just stuff going around the league is very exciting right now, and we are going to have it all here on this show. This will be a Spurs show. We will be recapping everything going on with the Spurs, looking at our young phenom Wemby, our young prospects Dylan Harper, Champagnie, Castle. It's going to be a very, very fun show. And let's just get it started. So first off, we're going to recap a little of the other night's game of New Orleans Pelicans beating the Spurs 104-95. Tough game from the Spurs. We didn't want this to be a rebound game, but we have to have another rebound game after this game. We didn't have the post play in this game, and it really hurt us. Zion really shows himself. He can still prove himself as one being a dominant force in this league. Some positives from this game, just in overall scheme of the Spurs. Devin Vassell back for his first game in 13 games with his calf strain. First game off the bench. I think that's a great thing that Mitch does, is bring these guys back off the bench. We saw it with Wemby, and now he brings it back with Devin Vassell. We were hoping for that 3-point shooting tonight. It didn't happen. But we have to move on. Just some other takeaways from this game. Zion still can posterize a defender whenever he wants, and he still took advantage of Wemby last night. This should not be a shock to anyone. Zion, he's been in the league for a bit, even with his power decline and, the up and down of his career. He still is a dominant force in this league. And, Wemby's going to have to pack on the pounds to be able to defend guard players like Zion. Just some awesome plays in the first quarter. We saw that Castle-Wemby exchange. Dunk by Wemby. Awesome play. Wemby finished with 16 points, 16 rebounds, 4 blocks again. Fox continues to be the money from the three, from especially that corner. But Devin Vassell back in our lineup really helps our 3-point shooting. They went up a whole 17 on us to start the third. We got the game tied. We even went up 5 with about 7 minutes to go. You just couldn't get it over the hump. The Pelicans really dominated us in the post, and, Luke Cornett and Wemby weren't able to get it done. Some other takeaways. Harrison Barnes was a walking mismatch out on the court. This is the spot where we think we need to upgrade at our 3. And games like this show it. Harrison Barnes, he could be seen as a glue guy for our team, but we have so much young talent. We can't have a walking mismatch out there, relying on our young guys to pick up the slack. We need a veteran that can get out there, that be gritty enough, just to give us, 10 points a game, maybe 7 rebounds, few assists. That's what I'm looking for. This was the closest to that Tony Snell game of that zeros across the board. That's what I'm looking at Harrison Barnes in these matchups, just like tonight. Some other, just from a coaching perspective. The Spurs, just look at these Spurs with a positive plus-minus tonight. Dylan Harper, plus 18. Luke Cornett, plus 8. And Carter Bryant, plus 5. Now, how many minutes did these Spurs play in the fourth quarter? Harper only played 3. Cornett only played 3. And Carter played 0. There's something wrong with this. This was definitely a coaching mistake. And Mitch got to see this. He's got to look at these plus minuses and, hey, I'm not playing my players that are contributing. Let's get them back out there. So I would like to see where Mitch goes from here. We don't have a time for another get right game. We have the Houston Rockets tomorrow night. So we are going right back to war. Here we go. We're playing the 3-7 in the last 10 Pelicans. Now we're going playing the surging Rockets with Kevin Durant that says that he wants to play 48 minutes a game because he's making $50 million. Hey, more power to you. Let's see if we can put it on us. Let's get after the Rockets. All right. Well, next thing I just did want to talk about is the All-Star game. How's the All-Star game selection shaking out? Let's review. So first off for the East, Jalen Brunson starting at point guard. Cade Cunningham at the 2. Jaylen Brown at the 3. Giannis at the 4. Giannis is most likely injured. That spot will most likely be replaced. And then Tyrese Maxey. Those are the starters for the East. For the West is Luka Doncic, SGA, Stephen Curry, Victor Wembanyama, and Nikola Jokic. This is the first time that LeBron has not been a starter in the NBA All-Star game in 20 seasons. And that is due to our boy Wemby. Wemby is just out there killing it. And things like this, we can talk about stats all we want. When we're looking back on Wemby's career and we're saying, what was the first year that Wemby made the All-Star game? It'll be like, oh, he subbed out LeBron James for an All-Star. That is very exciting. Those are the statistic career moments that I'm looking for. Not all the flashy stats. He had a 4. I saw a crazy stat. He has the most games ever with the most threes, fours, 3-pointers, and most 4 block games. Absolutely amazing by Wemby at his point of his career. I do want to just think about some of the Western, and we're not going to focus on the East as much, but over in the Western Conference, I think we're going to have a great backcourt. I know we're doing World versus the United States for this year, but I would just like to predict some of the Western All-Star backups. So, number 1, I have to go with James Harden. James Harden is leading that Clippers team. They are surging right now. And if I had to pick him or Kawhi to be that All-Star, I have to go with James Harden. Just an absolute workhorse at this stage of his career. Still putting up the numbers to, propel his team into a playoff spot. They were looking really rocky to start the season. Now they are locking in. Really exciting to see from James Harden. Next, who we have coming up tomorrow night. Kevin Durant. I absolutely have him on my top of my reserves. What a season. After being forced to the Houston Rockets, he has turned the situation so fruitfully for his team, leading these young guys. And gosh, they're a force to be reckoned with. Their height and their strength is going to be a mismatch for us, the Spurs. And it's going to be a challenge going forward. So I'm looking at these trade deadlines as an opportunity to get up on these Rockets. If there's one team I'm looking to try to get a leg up on right now, is not Thunder. Thunder are in their own echelons of where they are in the West right now. Let's try to separate ourselves from the Rockets. And I especially think that is our time at the trade deadline to do so. It is win now mode for our Spurs. Let's get it. 0 Miro. Let's go. All right, next one on my list, I have Anthony Edwards just killing it out in Minnesota. Gosh, he is one of the most efficient. No flashiness in his game, just power, strength, dunking. I love Anthony Edwards' game. Such a cool young player. He is out there, not scared of any player out there. He is just one of the true young bucks in our league that is carrying our league. Love it for us. Next on my list, I'm going to go with Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, look at him reinventing himself in this stage of his career. So exciting to see. Jokic has been up and down with injuries, but, Jamal Murray is the one that is holding those Nuggets in it. He was leading that team to be a championship winning caliber team just a few years ago. And he looks like to be back in that shape this season. His 3-point shooting is deadly. We are, any player that we would love to have on the Spurs right now. Oh my gosh, we would really enjoy his 3-point shooting right now on the Spurs. So really, really fun team out there in Denver. Jamal Murray, just a player that can skate under the radar sometimes, but I really do believe he has that chance to be an all-star selection this year. Love to see what Denver's doing out there. Obviously, one of our toughest opponents in the West. Really looking forward to, how Jamal Murray can contribute to that team as the season goes on. Yeah, so and then really exciting things. Other parts, it was just the rising stars and the sophomores that are getting called into that game. We have some really young stars that are playing in these games along. Uh, just Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper is going to be one of the rookies being representing the Spurs. Other ones, Stephon Castle will be one of the sophomores representing Spurs. And then finally, we have David Jones Garcia from our G League representing the Austin Spurs. Some other players that I really like to see that are playing in these games. Obviously Cooper Flagg, Colin Knippel. Colin Knippel is one of those players, I'm very happy with our pick in Dylan Harper. But as the season goes on and seeing those 3-pointers, oh my gosh, we could really use a player like Colin Knippel. Would not trade him for Dylan Harper. Nope, that's our boy. But really excited to see how Colin Knippel's career turns out. Other players that I'm really looking forward to seeing in this, this style of game. Derek Queen, what a player for New Orleans Pelicans. Big body that can, just a bruiser. Give him a couple years in this league. He is going to be great. A couple more players, I just want to really see out in these games. BJ Edgecombe, absolute maniac. Plays like Anthony Edwards on the court. I saw a game a couple weeks ago of him versus the Celtics. Oh my God, he was putting the Celtics in a blender. Very exciting to see. Oh, Jeremiah Fears playing on the New Orleans Pelicans. Great player. Just saw him in the game the other night against our Spurs. Really exciting rookie class this year. Could be one of the top tier of the last 20 years in terms of rookies. Very exciting going forward. As we go forward in the NBA, we have the best reality show on television. Everyone knows it. Let's get into the drama. But first, for our San Antonio Spurs, we have choices to be made. Really big choices to be made going into the trade deadline. And two of those players that I'm looking at is Trey Murphy III and Lauri Markkanen. Oh my gosh, if we can somehow grab one of these players, we jolt ourselves into contention right away. Let me give you my thoughts. So first, let's talk about some of their season averages. These players are killing it. Trey Murphy is punching above his weight class this season, averaging 22 points, 6 rebounds, and almost 4 assists. Just an amazing stat line coming from such a young player. I mean, he's only 25 years old. Picking out of Memphis and on the 17th pick out of 2021. He's a 6'8 small forward that can fit right into our office. This offense is craving a player like this that we can just come right in, make a difference. He is that young 3-and-D that we're looking for. Obviously fits Wemby's timeline. That's how we're still constructing our whole team right now. Definitely fits that timeline of being only 25 years old, still improving, and he'll be under team control for 3 years. He's a really, really good player. He's a third option on this team. He could be a third, fourth option on this team, and that's exactly what we need. We need that 3-point shooting. We need that defense, and this is a good contract for us to pick up without overpaying. There is risk of overpaying, but obviously that's the NBA at this point, and he really could help our depth. He could put us into that contention status, but let me get your thoughts rolling. Trey Murphy or Lauri Markkanen? And there's definitely some pros and cons. Lauri Markkanen is a star shooter. He is just a star shooter every single season. He can give you 25 plus every year. I believe he's averaging 27 points in his career. I mean, almost 28. Just amazing. He really raises our ceiling and makes us a real playoff threat. Not just trying to plug and play of where we can go. We know he could be a perfect offensive fit. Oh yeah. But what comes with getting Lauri Markkanen? It would cost major picks, obviously. We would probably have to give up one of our star young players. Don't want to say who yet. Well, that's not my job. We can figure this out. We have the picks. And I don't think the Jazz want to pay him. I think he's going to be wanting to get that payout. And if he fits into our offense as much as I think he would, I think we should pay him. Absolutely. So, what do you guys think? Lauri Markkanen, Trey Murphy, or give me another option. Other options that I'm thinking about is just, straight up 3-point shooting. How can we get a good 3-point shooter on our team? One that come to mind. Two teams that really come to mind that are going to most likely be in the trade market is the Boston Celtics and the Sacramento Kings. Could we get a Malik Monk or a Keon Ellis, a real 3-point shooter? I mean, Keon Ellis is just sitting at the bench on that Kings team. And, Malik Monk probably would have to give up a little more for Malik Monk. But we know Malik Monk's offense and really could use that 3-point shooting. Then Boston. I see two players that could really elevate our 3-point shooting. And that's Sam Hauser, who is balling right now. He is just on a streak of threes that I have not seen in this NBA for a couple years. He is killing it out on the Boston Celtics this year. And with Jason Tatum out this season, he has really stepped in that role of, we need more production from three. It would take a lot to grab him, but we could. Other player that they might be looking to offload is Anthony Simons. Another great 3-point shooter, drives to the paint harder than anyone in the league. He's got that small build frame that it looks like he's just going between defenders' legs to get under. Could one of those be our targets? Very exciting. And let's see how it goes. But let's see. Trey Murphy, Lauri Markkanen, those are my two picks that I want us to try to trade for. Pros and cons. Let me hear what you guys think. Who should the Spurs try to trade for? And lastly, let's just look at the go ahead, talk some NBA drama. Just let's talk about it. Some really cool things from, that we got to see this past weekend was Greg Popovich at the Austin Spurs game. I always worry these young kids don't know who Greg Popovich is. He's hazing out of that younger NBA that I was in, the 2000s, 90s. So, oh my gosh, it's so great to see the NBA give him his flowers. NBA Twitter was going crazy for Greg Popovich. We were truly blessed to have him for a coach all these years. And, when a coach transforms into that godlike figure, I just am so blessed to have those opportunities with him. And, seeing him getting the ovations, NBA Twitter just celebrating him, very exciting to see, very happy. Other things that were going around the league. It was Derrick Rose night, really emotional, was making grown men cry in Chicago the other night, so very funny to see that one. The Costco Kings, it may be AI, I don't know, but it was going all crazy on NBA Twitter that they were selling Costco Kings tickets for the rest of the season. Are you kidding me? Oh, gosh, that hurts to see. They are a desperate franchise. And, just lastly, really love him. I was just looking at the college basketball. I got to see some college basketball this last week. AJ Adesanya, 43 points. What an efficient game. He is killing it, making a very big case to be the number one pick. Who will get him? Let's see. God forbid it be the Thunder. Oh my God, it cannot be the Thunder. But AJ Adesanya killing it in college. Can't wait to see him in the NBA next season. Going to be really great player, I think. Very, very fun player. All right, well, let's look at the go-ahead for this week. How do the Spurs get back on track from here? It's going to be tough. We just played a team that was reeling in the Pelicans, and now we're going to play the Houston Rockets again. We have to get our lick back from last week. We have on the matchup Wednesday night against the Houston Rockets. Then, if we need, hopefully we don't, but we have a get-right game against the Charlotte Hornets. Gosh, they are struggling with LaMelo Ball. If I was LaMelo Ball, I'm trying to get out there. Really tough franchise to play for. I can't believe that, how much they have fallen from grace. And, it just does not seem like Michael Jordan has any way of managing an organization that results in winning. Obviously changing from a player into management is difficult, and the best player to ever do it going into management, it's really tough for him. They have not been able to do much in his tenure. Next Sunday we have Orlando Magic, and then February 4th we have Oklahoma City before 2 games back to back with Dallas. It's going to be a very exciting week of basketball. Well, that's going to do it for me at Spurs Latest. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm very excited for you to be on this journey with me. Let's get it going. Let's go Spurs, and I'll see you in the next one.